One thing that I find really fascinating from CIA is that they take a lot of the disadvantages or things that we see as disadvantages and turning them into superpowers or triumphs. And one of those is anxiety, right? Like we see it as something that we want to avoid. When anxiety pops up, we automatically just go to the worst possible outcome. But it heightens our observational skills. It allows us to be more intentional with when we're communicating with people. So what are some things, other things that you've found that people see as something that they want to avoid, but actually can be a superpower?
So, I mean, anxiety is a fantastic example. I'm glad you brought that up. And anxiety is actually something that is very, very common among CIA officers because not only does it heighten your observational skills, like you mentioned, but it also makes you more alert to oncoming threats. So that means it amps up your situational awareness. It's also something that makes you, like we joke and we call people, we say that anxious people are paranoid. But what that paranoia really is a constant ongoing assessment of the threats around you. So anxious people have this natural superpower for what we call geospatial awareness. They're very, very aware of who's around them, where they are on a map, where they are on the streets, what the threats are around them. And that's something that, the average person who's, balls deep in their phone and can't pull their head out of their ass to save their life, that person can't be trained to increase their awareness. Just like an anxious person can't be convinced to decrease their awareness. It's just they're wired that way. So anxiety is a fantastic example. Another one is autism. There's a lot of people out there, there's a lot of thought and fear around autism, especially when you start talking about Asperger's and certain ways that autism affects social life and social normalcy. But once you get into a facility like the CIA, autism very much becomes, especially high functioning autism, becomes a superpower because now you can connect disparate ideas, things that a sentence that you read 6 days ago and a sentence that you read today will connect in that person's head. They have the ability to stay focused on what average people would call a mundane task. They can stay focused on that mundane task for hours, days, overnight, right? They're mission focused, and they're not distracted by social pressures because they're essentially blind to social pressures. So where you and I might actually feel silly wearing something to work, or if we get attention from a girl, for somebody who has high functioning autism, they could care less if nobody pays attention. They could care less if they're wearing flip-flops to work because they're not there for what they're wearing. They don't feel those social distractions. They just focus on work. So people who are on the autism spectrum, super successful at CIA and in high demand as well. Because again, people on the autism spectrum very rarely seek reward for what they've accomplished. For them, it's just puzzles. They get to accomplish a puzzle and that in itself is the dopamine rush. So then they look for the new puzzle. Whereas the rest of us are like, if we're going to do all this work to solve a puzzle, we better get a badge or something. Right?
Yeah. Wow, man. So you left CIA and you went and created company Everyday Spy, the podcast and everything else that you have going on. You specialize in spy skills that break barriers in multiple different facets. What are some of those skills that you equip people with to help them overcome whatever problem it may be?
The big thing to understand about why spy skills are so useful in life isn't necessarily because spy skills are what you see in the movies. It's not about shooting guns and driving cars and wearing secret compartments in your suit. That's not useful, and that's not really applicable outside of a few specific missions at CIA. What's so powerful about CIA skills is that spies are given systems and frameworks, processes, and how to organize and plan anything from a takedown operation to a long-term strategic interest. So frameworks, right, processes and checklists, that's something anybody can use. Understanding how your adversary thinks in a combat situation becomes just as useful when you understand how your adversary thinks in a negotiation, or you understand how your adversary thinks when you're trying to make a purchase against a salesperson who's your adversary, right? And understanding the framework for how you think about that problem and how they think about the same problem gives you what we call information superiority. The ultimate spy advantage is information superiority, having more and better than your adversary. That's really what Everyday Spy specializes in, teaching people the frameworks and the systems that they need to gain informational superiority in every aspect of their personal and professional life.
So I'd love to dive into how you use that for yourself, because you left CIA in around that time. And it seems as though 2015, 2016 is when the CIA, I don't want to say went downhill, but they definitely are not in the best position since you left.
Went downhill is the perfect term to use.
Okay, beautiful. And you left and you're living in a garage and just kind of trying to figure things out. So what were some of those mental models or tactics that you used during that time to kind of propel you out of that and exponentially grow your business?
So I'll give you a really basic one, right? In the social media world, people are very familiar with the phrase know, like, trust, right? That's something the social media world knows very well. That concept didn't start in social media. That concept actually started in human psychology back in like the late 1800s. Mm-hmm. It's just that when social media started to become mainstream, people understood that you could use the know, like, trust model in growing your social media presence. So that know, like, trust, KLT process means first, people have to know you exist. That's what know means. Before any of us know someone exists, we don't even have a concept of that person, right? Nobody knows about, I just got a new pair of shoes from a brand called, I think they're called Woobies. And okay. Woobies is it's owned by a veteran. They basically make sneakers that are modeled off of combat boots. I had no idea they even existed. So prior to the day that their CEO reached out to me, I didn't even know Woobies existed. So now that I know they exist, the K in KLT is accomplished. Once you discover something and you know it exists, that's the K. Now you have to learn to like the thing. That's the L. Well, like is a very difficult process. It takes a long time because like is very subjective. Maybe you like someone, maybe you don't. Maybe you like a certain color, maybe you don't. It's totally, you and I like different things. But you can't get to like something unless you know it exists. Right. Once you know something exists, then you as the person, you can cultivate and get other people to like you as long as you meet certain criteria for them. So then over time, you build up the like. So know, K happens in a moment, you get discovered, and that's a K. Over time, you cultivate a relationship to get people to like you. When people start to like you, they automatically trust you. So people are always saying, how do I get people to trust me? Or I trust too easily, or I have trust issues. The truth is, if you like something long enough, if you like something strong enough, you're automatically going to trust it. And that's the problem with human psychology. That's why we end up getting hurt. It's why we date people we shouldn't date, sleep with people we shouldn't sleep with. So that KLT process was a framework that CIA taught me to get patriots, people with secrets about their own country, to turn them into traitors. So when I'm living in my in-laws' garage, struggling to get a job, because I'm trying to write resumes and submit applications, and I'm trying to do things the formal way, I had not even considered that I could just use know, like, trust and basically hack my way into a job. So after 6 months of not getting hired, I literally just went online and I looked for like where executives hang out in my hometown. And I found out that they all go play golf at Topgolf. So then I started going to Topgolf and I started looking for rich people talking about business. And then when I found rich people talking about business, I just found a way to get them to let me join them in their little stall to hit some balls. And once I was worse at golf than them and could make them laugh and make them joke and whatever else, just like anybody else, they didn't know I existed until I interrupted them at Topgolf. They didn't like me until I played golf with them and made them laugh. Enough golf and enough laughter, and they started offering me a job.
Yeah.
That's know, like, trust.